Hello, everybody, and welcome to Coffee, Tea, You and Me. Today's show is going to be an exciting show. It is Christmas Eve, so I'd like to say, first of all, Merry Christmas to everybody, and a Happy New Year for those of you all who are looking forward to celebrating the holiday season and continuing the celebration of the holiday season. And I realize that many of us celebrate in many different ways, and that's why today's show is so super powerful. So many of us have holiday traditions and we have cultural traditions and personal and inspirational traditions that at this time in our lives, in this time in the year, get a chance to come out and we get a chance to share those things. We get a chance to be connected and part of what we need to do to our families, for our families, and with our communities, which is a brilliant thing to think about. No matter where you are, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're in the C-suite or you are, actually, just a member of a team somewhere, it's important to share this time and take this time, kind of like a natural of our human biorhythms. At the end of the year, we kind of start to look forward to who we want to be, what we want to do, what we want to have, what we want to accomplish next year. And it's very a time to celebrate all the gifts that last year brought us, but also to look forward to all the wonderful things that the next year is going to bring us. And my show is going to be celebrating as we begin to honor everything that we did last year. We're going to look forward to celebrating this year. Unfortunately, it looks like I have a very, very interesting internet connection this week, and we may have to suffer through some things that traditionally we don't have to. And I do apologize for that, for everybody who might be engaging and helping with us. I'm going to try to log on to the StreamYard using my cell phone, which will be helpful. I realize that um, this might be a challenge, so we're gonna work through it together as much as we possibly can. I see we have some of my friends in the audience, and I appreciate you. I want to make sure that we do everything we can to get a great connection, and we don't have these issues. I realize that I've got some bandwidth issues on my computer and in my house, and that is the problem. So I'm gonna have to switch to my cellular connection just to make sure that we don't have these issues. So bear with me for a second while I figure out that little technical glitch. And if you can, please go ahead and introduce yourselves to everyone. If you have some information that you'd like to share, put that information in the chat. I don't care if you're looking at now, we're looking at LinkedIn, and we're looking at Facebook and YouTube. And so we're logging on everywhere. So I hope you guys can participate and I hope you guys can engage while I figure out a little technical glitch here. I'm pretty sure my new phone is going to be of a significant help to me once I figure out how to get my internet started. There we go. Look at that. Personal hotspot. Yes, yes, yes. That's my Wi-Fi passcode. Good, good, good. All right, let's see if I can find that connection. Now, I may lose you guys for a second because it's just because I'm setting up my personal hotspot. Don't worry, you might lose me, but that doesn't mean the show is over. So you guys can keep the party going without me. Bluetooth's on, Wi-Fi is connected. That's great. That's great. Personal hotspot is allowing others to join. That's the passcode. There we go. And this connection should be pretty secure. Looks like it's pretty strong. It probably won't be going in and out as much. And so I appreciate you guys for your patience. We should be golden at this point, and it's getting stronger. Okay, so yeah, it looks like we got a pretty solid connection. We're going to keep this party going. I'm glad you guys are still here. Do me a favor, just in case anything goes on that I don't know about. That's great. I really appreciate you, Nancy. I see you out there taking care of things for me. I really appreciate that. So today, like I said, we were talking about all things celebrate the holidays. And for those of you who've been paying attention and following the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about the RAP report or the RAP approach. RAP is an acronym that we were created many, many years ago. And it's a tool that we use to help corporations and organizations be effective at truly creating a highly engaged environment. Now, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to create a highly engaged environment in any organization or any group that you belong to? Well, here's the thing. People tend to do their best when they feel safe, when they feel like they're not threatened, when they feel like their level of satisfaction is high, when they feel super engaged, when they feel like their attitude and their countenance and everything about them is being well respected. It's going to be a mutual fulfilling thing where people will give more of their energy. They'll make more sacrifices. They'll do more of what they need to do to commit to the organization's health and the wellness of the organization because they'll feel a part of it. They'll feel like they belong. And that's very, very important because traditional values, especially in the Eurocentric world, right? When we start thinking about what we value in organizations and corporations, it's the hierarchy where most of the benefit goes to those at the top and very little of the benefit goes to those at the bottom. And it's important that we kind of like not destroy the hierarchy, but understand that the real place in the hierarchy, especially at the top of the hierarchy, is a servant leader role. This is the role where entrepreneurs and the thinkers and those that own and control the whole entire complex or organization or ideology, philosophy, pedagogy, whatever you want to say, those persons that are in control have to learn how to not just share the wealth, but also share the ownership, share the opportunity to create, to innovate, and to drive things forward. In fact, next Thursday, as a matter of fact, we're going to be doing a super special show on a principle called Ujamaa. Or Ujamaa, you can pronounce it in either way. But Ujamaa is a principle of Kwanzaa, and while we celebrate the holidays, we always try to throw at least one good Kwanzaa celebration in, and we're going to be doing that on Thursday night, which is the fourth day of Kwanzaa. And what happens on the fourth day of Kwanzaa is the community comes together and celebrates business. We celebrate the economic, the political, the social things that business owners and entrepreneurs, business leaders can do together to support the community, to support community growth, to support community values. And a part of the principle of Ujamaa is basically trying to make sure that everybody takes place and not just the benefits, but the ownership. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Today, we're talking about appropriate affection. How do we give it? How do we get it? Why should we share it? And affection is much deeper and different than appreciation. There's a reason why when I wrote the RAP report on the RAP approach, I tried to make sure that to include the acronyms respect, affection, and praise. And in this order, it is really, really important because as we discussed last week, to respect someone is to admire them and to hold them in high regard, not them as a whole total package. It doesn't mean that you never disagree with someone or you never have a disagreement or some type of conflict. That's not what we're trying to say. We're trying to avoid as much conflict as possible by acknowledging the thing that we have in high regard and admiration for one another. Now, obviously, there's two sides of respect. If you're going to say admiration, high regard is an important part of aspect of respect, then you also have to understand that there's the general overall admiration and high regard that we can hold for each other just as fellow human beings. That's one thing, right? If we can't get there to that basic generalized everybody deserves to be admired and held within high regard, if we can't get to that point, then it's very difficult to get to the next point. The next point in the RAP approach is going to be, how do we show appropriate affection? Now, first of all, if you know, like I know, in the HR world, any type of affection in the workplace, in the organizations, in the community is very difficult to figure out what's appropriate and what's inappropriate. Because, we often have different views of that. And each of us may have different views of that based on our cultural upbringing, based on maybe some trauma that we've had in the past. There's a different level of affection that each of us needs to have, or what we might feel is appropriate. Now, let's separate what we need to have from what is appropriate, okay? Because what is appropriate might not be enough for us to accomplish the benefits that affection has for us. We got to talk about that. We got to make sure that we understand that even when we are moving with and amongst in any social environment, we need affection. Literally, as our humanity begins to evolve and change, one of the things that helps us stay grounded in our humanity and our ability to be there for one another is our ability to receive and share affections. Critically important. And a lot of people will go, well, we can't do that because that might lend to a level of intimacy that might be lascivious. I don't even know the word I'm talking about. But we don't want to move into lustful or controlling behavior or behavior that objectifies one another. But we do want to make sure that we engage in the behavior that helps people feel important and valued, and their contributions are seem to be meaningful. In fact, they are meaningful. And so there's a different level of affection that is required to make that happen. And it's different than probably we can educate, or better than we can legislate. And we can't say as a rule, affection is important, and so therefore we must do blah, 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 blah. Because, like I said earlier, many of us have different definitions and different understandings and different values when it comes to what is appropriate. So let's go back to that. We all need affection. And there are several things we're going to share in today's discussion to help, sort of, I guess, hope prove that to you all. We basically, as human beings, we need affection everywhere we go. If we don't get that kind of affection, there are disastrous results that will occur, always do occur, whether we acknowledge that disaster or not. There's a trauma that goes from not being treated well. There's a trauma that happens to all of us when we don't receive appropriate affection. And so as leaders in every organization that you ever are part of, it is important that you understand how to give and to receive appropriate affection around from the people that you work with, people that you deal with, people that you support. If you cannot do this, then what's going to happen is you might be able to be a part of the organization. You might be able to participate in the short term. You might be able to do a whole lot in the short term. But in the long term, you're going to suffer from the lack of the kinds of attention that is important, that's vital actually for your health and your well-being. And this is critically important. We cannot try to replace, humans are not machines, we're not robots. We do have feelings, and feelings matter quite a bit in everything we do. Just to give you an example, I just got finished with a task force that I'm on to potentially rename Lee Highway, and I think the other highway, Jackson Lee Memorial Highway, or Lee Jackson Memorial Highway. These are just two roads that are named after Confederate leaders who are in here in Fairfax County. And there's hot debate in the task force, hot debate all over the community about what we should do and how we should go about the process of changing or not changing these names. Well, the task force voted to change the name. It doesn't mean that the names are going to be changed because the task force voted to change the name. The task force was assembled by the Board of Supervisors to get a viewpoint from the community. And so we went out into the community and we took a lot of information. And trust me, this was not easy. It was not easy to see other human beings on the other side of this issue that were so diametrically opposed to even listening or showing any level of care for, both sides of the situation. It's literally impossible for anybody not to have an emotional reaction to the proceedings as they went on, because you could see people who had different levels of feeling and different levels of connection to either changing the names or keeping the names or whatever that is. And then it was very, very difficult to keep a decorum of respect. And like I said earlier, right, respect is high regard and admiration for one another, right? So how do you keep high regard and admiration for people who are literally opposed to something that you value greatly, or some idea or some concept that you feel really, really connected to? It's very, very difficult to do. Not impossible, just difficult. And the question then becomes, is it worth it? Is it worth it for us to show the kind of respect and the appropriate affection that we need to show to each other, even when there is disagreement and conflict? Is it appropriate? Is it worth it? And I go back to something I recently watched. I had a chance to watch on the Disney Channel. I had a chance to watch the show Hamilton from the Alexander Hamilton show, the show that was about the Broadway show that was about Hamilton and Alexander Hamilton, which was one of the founding fathers of the country, especially the director and the controller of our financial systems. I mean, he literally founded what we think of when we talk about how America does. Its entire financial system was founded out of the mind of just one guy. So think about that, and I found that was very, very interesting and exciting and sort of difficult to grasp in today's vernacular, but how they would sign their letters when they would communicate to one another as a result of anything that would happen. Until they wrote a lot to each other, right? The citizens of the time, the leaders of the time wrote a lot to each other. And what they wrote in their letters to each other, because they didn't have email, they didn't have, the modern conveniences that we have now. In fact, they had the Pony Express, but that was pretty much how they got the letters from one place to another place, right? They had to go through, a series of stations on the mail route, right? And so they would sign their letters, or the salutation in the letter at the end of the letter would always be something to the effect of, I have the honor to be your obedient service, A. Burr, A. Ham, whatever that is they were going to say about Alexander, however they would sign the name or sign their salutatory salutation at the end of a letter they wrote. Just think about that. Alexander Hamilton and William Burr were inviting each other to duel after having a series of conflictual public arguments and letters against one another that were written and submitted to the press. It was printed. It was shared amongst the world, and even their own personal correspondences. They still would sign their letters with, I have the honor to be your obedient servant, Alexander Hamilton. Think about that. I have the honor to be your obedient servant, William Burr. That's incredible, right? It's incredible that you're inviting someone to duel. You're going to end someone's life, or somebody's life is going to be done with exactly what you're trying to do, but you still have the honor and the dignity to respect their basic humanity and your obligation to that humanity to serve it. So let's talk about that. Let's get into it. Let's get into what we think of. Has anybody ever been a leader of yours, or a member of a team for you, or in a place where you felt like they didn't have to, but they were willing to serve your needs, to truly show you how much they cared about you by being willing to make some sacrifices of their own that they don't have to, they're not being directed to, they're just seeing something special in you that they're willing to share their gifts, their talents, their connections, and their relationships with you. How many of you have had that? If you've had that, go ahead and just say yes in the chat. If you've ever experienced that, put that information in the chat. Just share it with everybody. Even if you're watching this later on in the recording, it doesn't matter. I want to get some engagement around this. If you've had that, if that's happened for you, if somebody that maybe a professor or a fellow student or a business person or somebody in the world has really shared with you that you personally were important, right? And they were willing to help you, right? They showed you that they cared about you, not just that they appreciate you for the work that you do, but no, they care about you because you matter to them, right? Not just your contributions, but you as a person matter to them. And then what you think about that? How did it make you feel? How did it make you feel knowing that someone cared about you that wasn't obligated, or even if they were obligated in terms of their own thoughts, they enjoyed the privilege of the obligation to care about and for you? Generally doesn't happen in today's American or even European world. It doesn't happen because we don't give each other that kind of respect anymore. We don't look at each other as someone that we are obliged to serve anymore. And we certainly don't share it if we feel that way, unless something happens. And I'm going to give you an example. I've given it to you before. For those of you who know me, you can just turn your ears off and we can ignore it. But I want you to think about something that is innately human. And I know that it's innately human because it happens all the time. When's the last time you ever, were driving your car, you pulled up to a gas station and you were pumping gas, and then, somebody pulled up you saw somebody at the gas station, they came up to you and they said, listen, I'm desperate. I need to get from here to this gas station to here, someplace. I got a wedding I got to get to. I got a meeting I got to get to. I got a recital. Something I've got to do is very, very important, and I need directions. I'm not from the area. I need to know how to get there. I'm desperate. Can you please help me? Can you help me figure this out? Now, generally when that happens, and it's happened to me before, I feel one or two ways, and it depends on the situation at the moment of the time. If I'm from the area and I'm just pumping gas and I know how to get that person from point A to point B, immediately within me is a sense that I could do something meaningful, something special, something relevant, something significant for another person right now by just helping them. I could take some of the stress, some of the pressure, some of the pain, some of the anguish away from their lives by just giving them the satisfaction of, you know what? You're only about 10 minutes away. All you got to do is go straight down this road right here, make a left at this next coming stoplight, then take a right and then keep going for about 2 miles and you'll be right there. Or even better, I could just say, you know what? It's a little out of the way, but I could go there and just get back on path where I was going anyway. So let me finish pumping my gas and you follow me. Because I can't really explain it to you, but I could show it to you if you just follow me. Fair enough? Why would I do that? Why would I go outside of my outside of what I should do or could do or maybe even have to do to help another person? Because it's good for me. It's good for me to feel relevant. It's good for me to feel meaningful. It's good for me to do something significant in real time for somebody, knowing that there's a need that has been satisfied. That, if I could do that all day in life, if I could just solve problems for other people based on the skills and talents that I already have, I of course would do it. Why would I do it? I would do it because it would validate my purpose, my mission, my sense of well-being and connection to my fellow human being. That's why I would do it. And I would submit to you that there are so many people who will feel exactly like I feel. They would do exactly the same thing. But here's the opposite thing that happens, and it does happen. People will ask me for directions, and instead of choosing to be excited and engaged and fully all in, unfortunately, I don't know how to help them. And now I feel horrible. In fact, I start to think emotionally before I catch myself. I start to blame them. How dare, in my own mind, I'm thinking, how dare they ask me? How dare, who do they think I am? You know, maybe there's somebody else could answer the question. What makes them think I have the magic answer to their question? You know, are they trying to humiliate me? They're trying to make me feel bad about myself? Should I know this? Why should I know this? This is not my problem. This is their problem, right? These are the things that might run through my head. I won't say them out loud, but it'll be written all over my face that I'm disappointed. I maybe even angry and frustrated. And it's going to be difficult for me not to share that anger and frustration with somebody that I'm in. Maybe somebody I'm in the car with right now, or somebody that I meet along the way. Maybe the brunt of my anger and frustration, and it wasn't something caused by somebody just asking me for help, right? Again, we're socially connected and socially wired to each other for both good things and bad things. And we have to be very, very careful about how we engage with others. Because if we can't see, and we're not strong enough emotionally ourselves to not be offended when basically no one's trying to offend us. You know, they're trying to ask an innocent question or find some directions or do something that has something to do with us. We just happen to be maybe a conduit that may or may not be able to help them. And it's our responsibility then to, if we can't help them, to still be kind, still be reverent in terms of our willingness to serve, and say to them, and actually mean it, I really wish I could help you. Unfortunately, I'm new in the area myself, or unfortunately, I don't really know where you're trying to get to, but maybe someone inside might know a little, somebody from here might know a little bit better. And I would suggest if you're going to ask somebody else, you ask them, are you from here? Are you familiar with this area? Before you ask them the question. And I promise you, you'll probably find somebody who is from here, and they'll be more than happy to help you. You know, a response like that is probably the most appropriate response. And it's an appropriate response that says to the person, I hear you, I understand you, and I care about your situation. I care about what you're trying to do right now because I care about your common humanity. If I were in desperate need of help, I would want someone to respond to me similarly, even if you could not help me. Recognize my common humanity, see the desperation, and try to do something to ease it. Even if you can't personally help, it doesn't mean you can't help direct me or correct how I may go about getting that information. Because here's the thing. When we're desperate, when we got to get something done now, got to get something done quickly, we're not at our best in terms of how we're thinking socially and how we're thinking to engage with one another. And so it's very, very important that even if we're in dire straits, no matter what, take a deep breath. Try something. This is a technique I learned. I was listening to a podcast one day, but it actually really works. A technique called cooling breaths. If you find yourself hot and you find yourself impassioned about something in a negative way, and you don't want to pass that negative energy on to someone else, try what I call cooling breaths. Here's how it works. Just purse your lips like this, like you're about to whistle. Instead of whistling, try this. Try to bring your air in through your lips. Instead of blowing out, bring it in. Take a nice deep breath, and you're going to feel cool air hit the top of the roof of your mouth and the back of your throat, and it's going to cool those areas in your emotional centers that might be feeling like, it's more than just breathe. It's breathe. Yes, breathe. Breathe is important. Breathing is important, right? It's an important part of centering yourself and getting yourself grounded so that you can make better decisions, right? Especially in the midst of a chaotic moment. You got to take a second just to gather your thoughts and not allow the emotions, the immediate emotions that are doing you no good to ruin your brain and let your mind just run amok and go in different places it shouldn't go. So get yourself back together. Take a nice cooling breath and start to sense that, things will be all right. All you now have to do is get yourself together and make a decision. Make a decision that's going to help you get back into first connection with yourself and the truth and reality that you're experiencing. This is a mindfulness technique, by the way. And then when you're sharing with somebody else, share something that's going to be positive and uplifting and move things in a positive direction. That's what you want to stay away from. And anything that you're going to response or reaction that you're going to have to another human being, you want to make sure you're not causing stress levels to rise. And there's a model called SCARF I want you to pay attention to. If you don't know about it, go look it up, go Google it. SCARF is literally an emotional psychological model that talks about what happens to human beings when they feel threatened. When human beings feel threatened, either it's for one of several reasons. And in the SCARF model, one of the things we talk about is, how those things begin to happen. And one of the founders of the SCARF model was really began to understand that when human beings feel threatened, when we feel like we're in threat state, and it can happen quite easily. When we feel like we're in threat state, here's what happens. One, we don't make great decisions because we're acting out of fear. We're acting out of frustration, anger, and our basic behavior design is set up so that whenever we feel threatened, then it's either freeze, fight, or flight, right? Those are the situations that we immediately do without even thinking. There's no cognitive abilities that are happening. It is all emotional. It is all at the basic human directive to survive, kind of strategy that works out. So here's what the SCARF model is. SCARF is another acronym that stands for status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness. If you feel like your status is being threatened as a human being, right? You're not being recognized as a human being. That's a status issue. If you feel uncertain, like your certainty has been some kind of a problem. I mean, you don't know what's going on. You don't know what's possible. You don't know what's going to happen. You just don't know anything. You don't feel like you know something in a situation. You're going to feel uncertain. That's going to be a level of stress, and that's going to make you, feel threatened, right? Or autonomy, right? Maybe you don't feel like you have the ability to make a decision, or you don't have the ability to control what's going to happen next in your life. And so you don't have that control. Therefore, you have no autonomy, and that's going to, again, make you feel threatened. The last thing, or the relatedness is second to the last. Relatedness is, do you feel connected to this thing? Do you feel like you're part of it? Do you feel like something is important to you, and that there's a connection where you feel valued, where you feel like you matter, right? And then last, it's fairness. Do you feel treated as well as others, or do you feel like you're being treated unfairly? And again, all those things will cause you to feel threatened or be in what we call threat state. And in threat state, your emotions don't work right, your brain doesn't work right, then nothing works right. And so in order to get yourself back in a situation where you can not feel threatened, you have to take the mitigating risk, and you have to make sure that you don't allow your status to be challenged. You don't fall into situations of uncertainty. You make sure that you have the autonomy to make decisions and can opportunity. And you try to make sure that you're connected and you relate to everybody, and you try to make sure that everybody's treated fairly. If you can do that, then you can cause a lot less stress in your world, and a lot less things can go wrong with your relationships, your social relationships with other people. Now, people react to what? our reactions. They react to what we say, what we do, and then how we react to them. And all these things is information that they get to help them either feel at peace or threatened. Right? Because there's only two things we get from each other. Either we feel at peace from one another, or we feel like we're threatened by one another. And if you can, in your communication strategy and whatever you do, make sure you try to make sure that you reduce that threat state. This is the reason why I wrote the RAP report in the first place, is because I wanted to make sure people had the tools they needed to have to reduce the level of stress they share with one another and give to one another, but also complement each other in a way that's going to be useful. But if you don't know, if somebody's feeling threatened by you, they're going to react defensively, right? And that's going to be a clue that they're feeling threatened. But here's the thing. You got to know why they're feeling threatened. Is it one of the scarf issues? Because it's usually going to be one of those scarf issues. And if you can identify and isolate, this is what makes people feel threatened, then it's going to help you, or the person that you're dealing with feel threatened. This is going to help you to communicate in a different way. Because if somebody's feeling threatened because they feel like their status is being threatened, like they're not being treated the way they deserve to be treated based on their title, their position, whatever that is, they just feel like it's not, their status is being threatened and they don't feel like it matters to you, then it's important for you, if you're trying to communicate with them and you want them to be at their best and you want to be at your best and you don't want them to come at you with some craziness, then you kind of do what you have to do to respect their status, to go, okay, I know that you're the boss, or I know that you're one of the team members and I really enjoy and I appreciate you for these things, right? Again, appropriate affection, right? It's very, very important. I love that you do blah, blah, blah. I really see what you're doing here and it makes me so happy to make that, to have the connection with you. You have to be willing to say it. You have to be willing to share it and let people know that, you know what, this causes me to good feelings. This causes pleasant feelings in me. What you are doing, what you're sharing, what you're saying, this usually causes, but this other thing I want to talk to you about is something I think that we can both work on together to help everyone else, to make sure that they see the greatness in you that I see in you. Something like that is a much easier thing to talk about and a much easier way of communicating to somebody appropriately, so that they feel, again, respected, their status is not being threatened. And it goes on and on and on. I highly recommend you check out the SCARF model, Google it, look it up. You'll find all kinds of, assessments that you can take for yourself. I love taking the assessment for myself because one of the things I found out that certainty is a very, very important thing for me. When I took the SCARF model assessment, I realized that, I like to know what's going on. I like to know who's in charge. I like to know who's responsible. I like to know who's supposed to give me the answers that I need if I have any questions. And if I don't know those things, where we're going, what we're all about, why we're here, I'm feeling threatened every time. It just, if I'm being honest, that's a high threat state for me. In fact, the more I know about a situation before I get into it, the better I can respond and react and be within it without and feel comfortable. Like, maybe I belong there. Maybe I'm supposed to be. Maybe this is a part of, my destiny to fulfill whatever it is I have to fulfill in this role at this time. But now, if I don't feel the connection to it, then I'm going to have a problem. Okay, let's get back into appropriate affection and some of the things we've learned. Let me tell you some things really quickly that we've learned about this. I'm going to get into some deeper ideas. No matter what your title or your authority is, real feelings of friendship are the great equalizer for all people. It is critically important that people feel a friendship, a kinship, a belief in one another. And the only way to do it is to share it. I'm a big believer in a lot of things that I've heard from other great leaders and thought leaders when it comes to this. Zig Ziglar used to say, when it comes to other people and dealing with other people, if you give whatever you're trying to give out in slices, whatever you want back, you'll get it back in loaves. So give it out in slices, it'll come back in loaves. If you want trust, big time, You got to give trust. If you want love big time, you got to give love. You want people to care about you, you got to give caring. You want people, whatever you want from people, you got to be willing to give it out in slices. If you do that, it'll come back to you in loaves. Now, Mary Kay Ash would say the same thing in a different way. She would say, the more you give to others, the more you get in return. In fact, you get back in return 10 times what you gave out. And these are not just quotes. These are significant understandings of the law of reciprocity. The more you're willing to give, share, and be for other people, the more they're willing to give, share, and be for you. And it might not be a direct one-to-one transaction. You know, you may give to somebody or share something with somebody in dire need who has no ability to give you anything that you need. But that's okay. The more you pour into other people, sort of the universe comes together and begins to work in your favor. And so I'm going to share some things. So these are some things that you can go look it up for yourself. But I'm not going to give you all the verses and quotes. But the Bible has a lot to say about affection and how we do it. And some of the lessons I've gotten from it, I'm going to share them with you really quickly, are things like this. Number one lesson: the best recruitment strategy that you have in your arsenal to get the right people involved with whatever it is that you're doing. It doesn't matter what it is. The best recruitment strategy is love. The more you can love them, whoever it is you're trying to identify, and whoever it is you're trying to recruit, whoever it is you're trying to embrace, whoever it is you're trying to engage with, love is the best recruitment strategy. It is the most highly effective motivational tool that we all have. It's right there in the Bible. The more we display love for one another, we delineate ourselves from others who are unwilling to sacrifice in that way, unwilling to give to other people. And we acknowledge in the same moment that we're doing this, that there's a special level, a special relationship with the person that we're trying to embrace, but also a connection to a universal truth that lets us know and believe in one another so highly that we don't worry about what somebody's going to do to us, or what somebody might take from us, or what somebody might try to leverage or create within us in a negative way, because we're too busy delivering the positive to one another. We're too busy delivering the good to one another. We're too busy trying to be positive and supportive. If you can do that, if you're strong enough, and one of the greatest examples I can think of in my life, and I'm so blessed that I had the opportunity to know him before he passed, is Congressman John Lewis before he died. You know, wrote a book, and the book was about good trouble. You know, it was about getting into good trouble, teaching us that it's important to agitate, as Frederick Douglass used to say, but also to make sure that what we're doing is for the greater good, demonstratively so that people can see that we're willing to make sacrifices personally of ourselves for the greater good of humanity. And because we're willing to do that, then the gifts that come back to us are amazing. It's just amazing. And so make sure that for your stakeholders, your supporters, your referral sources, whoever it is that you need to have a better experience with, experiences the joy of your love and your commitment and the honor that you may have for them. This is appropriate to what you're trying to accomplish in life. It's appropriate to your mission. It's appropriate to your abilities. It's appropriate to everything that you are here for, or we all are here for. Second thing, love is the primary social requirement. In spite of what is written in the law, in spite of what is decided in the Constitution or is written along the base of the Statue of Liberty, love is the primary social requirement. It is something that we must do for and with one another. And if we do this well, we will never have to worry about breaking the law. We will never have to worry about doing anything or being considered dishonorable, or making sure that we're not making the appropriate sacrifices for the social world we live in. Right? It's very, very important. We are socially required to love one another. If we can somehow focus on that, we won't have to concern ourselves with things like immorality. We won't have to worry about who's doing what to whom. Is it going to hurt them? Should we litigate? Do we have to go to court over this situation? Because it won't be a problem. It won't be a problem, and we can never be accused of anything legitimately by attempting to show appropriate affection for one another. Again, appropriate affection. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. The next lesson I learned from the Bible is we have to find the greatness in others, because sometimes it's hidden. It's hidden below the pomp and circumstances, hidden below whatever that is. But every single person, every person on this planet has something great within them, something great they're supposed to do, something great they're supposed to be a part of or engage in or participate in. It's a destiny that's written in all of our lives. And to our best of our ability, we should try every time we can to deal with people in that arena. Try to help figure out for ourselves, where are they supposed to be? Where are they destined to go? What were they put here on this planet for? And how can we support them? If you're thinking like that, if you're thinking that, then what happens is you start to reject all the negative feelings and associations you have with others. They may be putting up the ugliest face. They may be doing the things that you think are wrong and ugly and terrible and blah, blah, blah. But if you can look past that ugliness, right, and try to see that special grain of opportunity within them, it could be a Herculean task, especially if you vehemently disagree with what a person is saying or doing, right? But it's important that you try to do everything you can to allow others the space to arrive. Try to make sure you don't create any type of anxiety or any type of drama or any type of trauma. You know, especially if they're already experiencing some type of trauma, or you need to be on the calming end of that. You need to help them, see the greatness in themselves, or by you seeing the greatness in them. Now that takes a lot of practice, and it's very, very hard, because you got to listen to some things maybe you don't want to listen to. You got to hear some things, and you got to try to understand some things that is quite difficult for you to understand. But I find that no matter what, I can understand somebody else's perspective if I try hard enough. If I'm faithful to what I'm just telling you, that something special is in them, I will find a way. I will listen to them long enough. I will ask enough questions. I will do what I need to do to find that special jewel within them. And then I will pay attention to it. And I will share it with them that I see something in them that's really super special. And I think they can do something great with it. And it kills all of the adversarial, visceral, negative, that thing they may come out with, and they may all of a sudden they're starting to realizing that, there's no reason for them to feel threatened by me. There's, again, back to the scarf model. There's no reason for them to think that their status is appropriate, or their relatedness or connectivity is a problem, or I'm not doing anything to work against them. In fact, I'm trying to do whatever I can to work with them and to support them and help them grow in their lives. I won't necessarily be tolerating whatever ignorance they have that I think is just straight ignorance, right? But I'm not going to tolerate that. But I'm also going to find something great. I'm going to do the work. I'm going to do the work that's required to do that. So another thing we learn from the Bible is to be faithful about one another. Again, like I said earlier, people may not always show you their best selves, but be faithful that there is a better self in every person, right? So that means choose your team members and choose your partners and choose your friends. Choose them for the long haul, not just for the short win. They may have the skills and the talent and the abilities to do what you need them to do right now, and that's great. But do they have the character and the connectivity to your values to make it through the long haul, to overcome the obstacles that are in front? Can they be, because if you're so busy focusing on the short term that you don't focus on the long term with people, then you're going to make short-term decisions all the time. And nobody's going to be with you for a long time. Everybody's going to be with you for a short time, because, hey, it was a transaction, right? It worked out. We had a transaction. It worked out. Both of us were happy, and now we're off because we didn't do any deeper levels of understanding about who we are, what our character is. The next thing I learned from the Bible is you have to renew whatever that faith is you had. You have to renew it. You have to come back to it over and over and over again and do what is required to make that strength, that character, whatever it is you believe in a person, grow. It takes the ability to work together to identify and see the greatness within, but also do what you can to magnify that greatness. Do what you can to support it. Do what you can to help it grow into something bigger than it is right now. The next thing I learned from the Bible is very difficult. It's very difficult to come back from something you did to someone else that was so toxic and so negative, whether you intentionally did it or you did it mistakenly, it's very hard to come back to the same situation, because you're always starting from that negative thing that happened between you two. So forgiveness is a key thing. You have to be able to forgive people, and you have to be able to see them in a different and better light all the time. At the same time, if you need to beg their forgiveness, and you need to do what you can to regain the trust and to regain the honor, the dignity, the self-respect that you may have lost because of something you did, even mistakenly. Show them that you care enough to recognize that this was a mistake that you've made, and this is something that you're going to own. You're not going to try to run away from it. You're not going to try to hide from it. You're not going to try to accuse them somehow because of your mistake. You're going to make the mistake. And there's just so many more lessons that there are, right there in your Bible. For those of you who like to read the Bible, I do, because I need to get sometimes a concept of what something means and how others have thought about it over the years historically, before I start going into the neuroscience of it all. And we're going to go there too. But let's talk about some of the things I've gotten from some of the great quotes that are out there from author Christopher Hitchens. He says, owners of dogs will have noticed that if you provide them with food and water and shelter and affection, they will think you are a god. Whereas owners of cats are compelled to realize that if you provide them with food and water and shelter and affection, they draw the conclusion that they are gods. And sometimes people are like both, and you really have to think about that. What are you feeding in people? And to be tender to everyone means that you have to be also willing to be a little vulnerable. You also have to be willing to say, you know what, this might not go the way I want it to go, but I'm going to do the right thing. And I'm going to be, I'm going to focus on giving and sharing and my contribution as much as possible, more so than I'm going to focus on the return that I get for my contribution. Because if you focus on the giving, if you focus on the contribution, then you're busy accomplishing the mission, the purpose, the passion, the work that you were designed and put here to do. But if you focus on what I get back in return from it, not that you shouldn't get a return, you should get returns for anything that you do that's valuable, right? It's another a saying of Frederick Douglass. I don't know the direct quote, but here's what I'm going to try to kind of give you an idea of it. Frederick Douglass used to say, "The work makes the man, and not the man that makes the work." So whatever you are doing, whatever you're designed to do, whatever you are focusing on, whatever energies you're putting out there, whatever contributions you're making, those contributions are also making you into who you're going to be and what you need to do and all that kind of stuff. So there's a definite interplay between, people say, well, this is my destiny, so I got to follow it. Well, it's one thing about your destiny, but your destiny somehow, if it doesn't become a passion of yours, because as you pursue it, you should be, as you work towards it, you should be feeling a connection to it that's deeper, and you should be deepening that passion for it, wanting to get better, wanting to get faster, wanting to be more efficient, wanting to be more effective at it. If you're not, then that's a sign that you're probably not doing things that you should be doing. And it's a sign that what you think is your destiny is not really your destiny. But if you were doing things that you find meaningful and powerful and passionate, and you feel empowered by it, and then you can also find somebody else to value it in a way that's going to help provide the things, other things you need to have in your life, like, 3 hots in a cot, right? You need to have that. If you find that whatever you're doing helps you do that, then that's a good thing. But if you find that whatever you're doing doesn't help you do that, then that's not necessarily a good thing. And you might want to examine whether or not you're doing the thing that you should be doing in the way you should be doing. Jane Austen said, "We all know him to be proud, unpleasant sort of man, but this would be nothing if you really liked him." We all know him to be a proud, unpleasant sort of man, but this would be nothing if you really liked him. Isn't that true? Aren't there people who, other friends would say, "Oh, this person is horrible. This is terrible. It's terrible." But you really like it. Something about him, you like him. And so you're willing to defend them. I've defended people. At the same time, that I wasn't even conscious of my feelings for. There's been times when, somebody has said something or done something, and I've come to their defense, and I realized that I didn't even know I felt this way about this person. But more importantly, I didn't want them to feel bad about the mistake that they made, because I know that everybody makes mistakes. But there's some people that you just feel this kind of connection with, and that connection is usually reciprocated, and you have to be, when it happens, when the moment occurs that you're working with somebody, you're exposed to somebody, or somebody expresses a thought or an idea that you just really appreciate, don't wait to tell them what it meant to you, or what this seeming connection might be to you. Find a way to do it again appropriately, or find a way to express that thought, your caring and connection for what they're doing appropriately, because we are naturally curious, and this is something I want to warn you about. We're naturally curious about people that we care about, people that we're attracted to. We naturally want to know more about them. We want to know what makes them tick. We want to know how they got to where they are. We want to know, what's all about them. And sometimes we can be a little too into it before they are, too into them before they're willing to reciprocate the connection. So take it slow, but definitely don't disregard the opportunity to recognize someone else's achievements and the gifts that they have, or the talent they have, and share with them what it means to you. Bob Hope said this. I love this quote. Bob Hope said, "People who throw kisses are hopelessly lazy." When I heard that quote, I got excited, because I realized that it's so true. How many times do we just do things out of what we think is correct social behavior, but it really means nothing? It's like the wave that all the beauty contestants are supposed to do, because it's not the excitement they really have. But it's the polite, but doesn't mean anything. If everybody's doing everything the same way, does it mean anything? Everybody's blowing kisses because it's too difficult to get off the float to come down and actually shake somebody's hand, or show true affection for somebody, or whatever that is. And here's what happens. When people don't put their emotional energy and are genuinely positive and support it, right? When they do it, people feel cheap and cheated. That's what happens. If you're going to take the time to greet me, then take the time to greet me. Perfect example I got to give, my fraternity brother, Bill Clinton. Got to tell you, if you ever want to do a function and you want him to speak, or you want him to be on the DS, or you want him to be introduced and then walk from one end of the room to the other end of the room, this is going to be very difficult for Bill, because Bill has to, he will always stop to see somebody he recognized and spend the time to catch up with them, even as he's walking toward the podium to give a presentation, or trying to get on the stage, whatever it is, he's gonna, oh my goodness, it's so good to see you. He's gonna shake their hands, gonna give them that little two-handed hug that he likes to do, and then he's gonna spend a couple seconds just talking to them, catching up with them, and letting them know that they're special to him, that he sees them. That's why people love him. They love him because he loved them first. He takes the time to pay attention. Now, I'm not saying we all need to be like Bill Clinton, but I am saying that there's something to this, not trying to dial in affection, right? You got to really give it. You have to really, and it has to be something that's authentic and genuine, but appropriate, right? You don't want to be inappropriate, and I stress that, but you don't want to risk the opportunity, risk missing the opportunity to share appropriate affection. You can't care by what I call standard operating procedure, right? Because we're not standard. No human being is standard. Nobody is the same. Everybody's different. And so you have to figure out what's the appropriate level of affection to give and to share with people that you want, and what feels good to you. Because what feels good to you should feel good to others. Now, there's a level of social intelligence that goes along with this. You need to know, specifically with your potential stakeholders, your referral sources, and people that you might want to be teammates with, what is the appropriate level of affection for them? What is the appropriate level of caring that they need for you to share with them? Again, they need this. And I'll share with you in a little bit why that's important. It's so important. Self-love is critically important. When we take the time to figure out how to love ourselves, we begin to get a clue with understanding what it takes to authentically and affectionately love others, right? To do it well, to do it right. But we do have to pay attention. We have to pay attention to ourselves. So what I like to do to remind me to love me every day is I like to read my affirmation statements, and I have about 10 of them that I read to myself every day out loud. Before I do my to-do list, before I look at my email to check who I have to respond to, before I look at my phone calls, before I check anything, every day, bright and early in the morning, I get up, I do a brief meditation, I read my affirmation statements, then I do my to-do list, and I put my calendar together and my daily plan together and what I'm going to try to accomplish today, and then I pray. And I meditate, and I stretch, exercise, work out a little bit, and then I get to it, right? That gives me time to let my thoughts and my reflections and the things that I want to try to accomplish, it gives me a chance to remember who I am in that and all those things, and it gives me a chance to honor myself. And then when I do so, I really feel good. Even if I don't get all the things done on my to-do list, it doesn't matter. I know I've given myself the best fresh start that I possibly can. I've honored myself. I've done the things I could do to make sure that I am staying true to who I am and what I love most about myself. So take your time, write your affirmation statements out. If you haven't already done so, take your time to do that. Really make sure that these are the things that you really want to say to yourself, to the universe, to other people. And I would go so far as to take a time to just share your affirmation statements with other people. Share them so that people can see, what you're thinking about, what's important to you. What are your highest and deepest values? What do they mean to you and why? Have those conversations so that people can understand what you're all about. It's very important, especially within your network. If people understand what you're all about, they know what they can do to help you. Another quick exercise I might want to share with you when it comes to self-love is take 5 minutes to just list 3 words that describe some of your highest values, the ones that you love embracing. I came up with the 3 words that I think are the most powerful 3 words in the roundtable, which are communication, encouragement, and collaboration. How I came up with those 3 words were to really look at the benefits that my members were saying back to me that they were receiving from the roundtable, and it was like a list of 26 things. And then I looked at the top 6 things of those 26 things, the ones they said most often were true benefits for them. And I think all would universally agree that all 6 of these key benefits are there within the process, the program, the procedures, and everything we do within the roundtable to get these 6 benefits, right? But then I thought, what are the root cause of these 6 benefits? And I came up with those 3 words: communication, encouragement, and collaboration. These are the things we value most. These are the things we push. These are the things we stretch. These are the things we try to grow into, getting better and better and better about every day, every meeting, every time we interact with one another. We want to figure out, how can we communicate better? How can we encourage one another more? How can we collaborate better so that these benefits that we get will not just be random. They'll be assured because we're doing the things to make sure we maintain a level of benefit. So think about the 3 things that really drive the world that you want to live in. It really drives the success or the benefits that you want to achieve to the best of your ability. But don't think that you shouldn't come back to and recreate them. Sometimes you come up with some things in your current existence, but as you plow through to your future, then you're going to want to change. You're going to want to embrace some newer things that might be more challenging to you, some newer values that might be more challenging to you once you've conquered. Like one of my biggest things to conquer was fear. I want to be courageous in everything I do. That was my number one thing that I wanted to do at some point in my life. And I realized that what I was doing, when I made myself do, was anything I thought was uncomfortable, or anything I thought was uh, something that I didn't want to do, but I know I should do it. I attacked it. I attacked it to the point where, I embraced it so well that I'm no longer uncomfortable about it. I still not might like it, do it. But I have to, and so I get better and better and better at it. Instead of trying to run away from it or avoid it, I run right to it. I run right into it, and it's one of the key things. There's another part of dealing with appropriate affection, and that I want to share with you. And it's called, group hug. This is the series of ideas and thoughts that will help you really truly understand why appropriate affection is so important, right? For years, study after study after study after study has recognized that the Americans and the British communities are the literally most standoffish, most stuffy societies that you possibly can imagine. This leads to tremendous isolation and tremendous amounts of people feeling disconnected from everything, everything they are. Now, I would challenge a lot of our American thought processes when we talk about liberty and we talk about what it means to be free and to have personal choice, and to be free from worrying about consideration of what the government may say or what the government may make us do and all that kind of good stuff. I understand all that. That's all the things that I value similarly. However, I do understand that in that personal freedom, if we don't take care of one another, if we abandon one another in that process to be free, then we're actually doing more damage to our society than if we say to one another, yes, I am my brother's keeper, and I will be responsible for, making sure that whatever needs you have are actually met, such that you will never become a pariah to the society in a greater way, right? So it's important that we look out for the poor. It's important that we look out for the disadvantaged. It's important we look out for anybody who has been threatened and downtrodden, or in any way, shape, or form marginalized by our society, our communities, our government, whatever you want to talk about. And so if we're not going to bring others up to a level where there's a common level of respect and adoration and things that we need to do in our society, move our society forward, then we're part of the problem, because we're hoarding things. We're hoarding ideas and thoughts and consideration that we shouldn't hoard. We should share generously. And that's just a personal value of mine. So when we talk about, but it's not just mine, it's everybody's, because we're talking about the science right here. The science of loneliness is in. The numbers are in. When we don't act accordingly to care for one another appropriately, right? If we lack of affection will cause feelings of low social support. It will increase our anxiety and increase our depression. And so it is just critically important that we feel this kind of connection to one another, and we do what we can to honor the connection and strengthen the connection and grow the connection. If we don't, all kinds of maladaptive social and psychological issues are happening. We become ill. We become negative towards one another. We engage in criminal behavior. It's a human thing, because we don't have the appropriate affection. We don't have people that value us. We don't have people that share with us that we're special, that we're meaningful, and so they can honor us as just basic humans, if not for anything specific that we bring to the table. Because we do bring our humanity everywhere we go. And if you don't honor that, then you got a problem with, you're part of the problem of the greater society, right? People suffer from something called skin hunger. It is really the lack of touch, right? Which causes a syndrome called, I'm going to try to pronounce this, alexithymia, right? Which is the inability to identify and describe emotions in the self. When you don't have enough affection, when you don't have enough touch, when you don't have people hug you, right? Then it doesn't become easy for you to identify what emotions could do and what emotions are, and even describe them amongst yourself. And the core characteristics of this becomes when you don't have it, you have this dysfunction, you don't have emotional awareness, right? You lack ability to make social attachments, and your interpersonal relationships dramatically suffer. I can't say it. We need these three things. We need to be paid attention to, we need to be heard, and we need to be touched. If we're not, as human beings, then we do each other damage. When we don't figure out how to pay attention to one another, when we don't figure out how to listen to one another, we don't figure out how to actually show appropriate affection for one another, then we cause all kinds of damages. And it's almost like that song, Mr. Cellophane, right? If you ever heard that song, if you look at the movie or the show, I think it was not Cabaret. What was this show? It's a famous Fosse show, Chicago. And in the movie Chicago, there's a character called there was a character who was related to the main character or husband of Roxy Hart, and Mr. Hart considered himself to be Mr. Cellophane. The song is Cellophane, Mr. Cellophane, you can say my name. So anyway, when you think about that, what he felt was unimportant, invisible, inconsequential, unimpressive, and undistinguished, right? So as a person, here he walked around in the universe feeling like he didn't matter. And at some point, if you do that, if that happens to you for a long period of time, you're going to lose your ability to form relationships. You're going to lose your ability to make the social connections that you have to make with others. Try influencing somebody when you don't have that ability. And I promise you, you're going to be more disappointed in people than you are going to be satisfied, because you're not going to be able to do anything that's going to be causal. That's going to cause others to relate to you, to care for you, to care about you, and to deal with you. Authentic affection is here. Appropriate affection is here, and it's relevant and it's meaningful, and we all have to know how to do it better. When we learn how to do it better, we can create a better society. Next week, we're going to be talking about, talked about respect earlier. We talked about affection today, how to give that. Next week, we're going to get into the last and I think is the most important part of the RAP approach. And this is, how do you give authentic praise? How do you give authentic praise? How do you receive authentic praise? And a lot of us have problems with both of those things. Some of us have problems giving praise because we don't want to blow somebody's head up. And some of us have a chance of hard problems with receiving praise because we want to be humble, too humble. And we're going to talk about it next week. I hope you guys got some ideas. Hope you come back. Hope you enjoyed what we shared with today. We're going to have a lot of fun next week, and I'm hoping you in it. If you're a business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a small women-owned, minority-owned business, this show is built for you. I want you to engage with the show, with the information, check out what we put in the chat box. There's a lot of documentation, some of the things we shared with you today. The RAP approach is there, so you can use it. If anybody wants to have a personal copy of it, just let me know. Hit me up in the chat, and whether it's on LinkedIn or Facebook, on YouTube, I'll be more than happy to share the document with you. But I think it's important, the resource guide, so to speak, because I'm trying to create resource guides for everything I do, all the training that we give to people and share with people. I want to make sure people have access to everything, because they're not just, the musings of Marvin, but where did I get this information from? So if you read the documents, you're going to find that buried inside those documents is all the links and things that, are there for you to gain a higher level of wisdom and understanding about how you do things that you need to do. I'm hoping you become a better networker, a better entrepreneur, a better strategist, whatever you got to do to make your life, your business, and your community well. I hope you do that well. Last but not least, I want to mention, again, next week we have a special show, probably about 7 o'clock on Thursday night. It's going to be a special Ujamaa show, which we're going to talk about. Ujamaa means collective work and responsibility, right? How do we work together to create better businesses in our community? How do we share ownership and share resources and make sure that we all rise and fall together? So it's an important thing to establish fundamental fairness in the community and to make sure that everybody is doing their fair share, right? Okay, God bless you. I hope you had a great time. I know I did. It's 4:18. I zipped through this, a lot of information and I do apologize. I was talking really fast. But next week we're going to finish up the RAP approach, and we're going to start off the new year with a bang. And I got some exciting stuff, so stay tuned and pay attention, right? Let's make sure that you hit us up on YouTube, you share it, you like it, you do everything you can, thumbs up, everything you can engage and share this with other resources, because we don't want to keep this a secret, right? We want to blow this thing up and make sure that everybody who wants to be in business, thinking about business, has the connections, the tools, the resources they need to grow, to thrive, to love what they're doing, be passionate about it, and keep going no matter what, towards the, strike, look at the goal, look at the end, and keep going way past it. Make sure that you grow well. Again, God bless you. This is Coach Powell signing off. It was great to talk to you guys. Hope you had a great time. I know I did. And we will keep on going. Merry Christmas, everybody.